Well, you were here yesterday. You were a Republican supporter who was not voting for Donald Trump, and here he is. He's going to be going to the White House. How are you feeling?
He's the leader of my party, and I'm going to support him, and I suspect all of the Republicans who did not are going to come home and support our president.
But you disagree with him. How hard is that going to be?
Of course I disagree, and there were Republicans who disagreed with President Bush. There were Republicans who disagreed with Governor Romney when he ran. I worked for him in 2012. There were Republicans who disagreed with Senator McCain when he ran, and so that's a part of politics. But we're all Republicans. We all care about America, and we're going to do everything we can to move the country in the right direction.
Anna, can I ask you about the polls as a pollster? How did they get it so wrong?
Well, I mean, I think actually it might help to look at Britain. And you look at the last election where the Tory vote was vastly underrepresented, and there was a commission that was put into place to study, and what they found was there's nothing wrong with the methodology of survey research per se, but that the sampling was wrong, talking to the wrong people. What you're going to see, I think, as the data comes in, as votes are counted, that there was a pretty significant drop in turnout. Right now, Trump got about 2 million votes less than Romney, Clinton about 7 million less than Obama. That means that's a lot of people who didn't vote who voted 4 years ago. Our models don't do a great job of capturing people who decide not to vote.
Right. Could it also be, though, that the forgotten men and women that Donald Trump was talking about, you weren't hearing them either?
I don't think so. I think if you have a drop in Democratic turnout, and the Republicans win, right? It doesn't mean you aren't counting the Republican votes. You have to get the proportion of Democrats and Republicans right in order to get your prediction to be correct. I mean, so I don't think so. I do think it's possible that the undecided vote, which was higher this cycle than we've ever seen, probably had some folks who were Trump voters who didn't want to say who they were voting for. But there's really no evidence of forgotten people, not in the polls. It's a matter of which party turned out at a higher rate.
Yeah, and Shermichael, you're agreeing with that?
I do agree. If you look across the board with African Americans, with college-educated women, with minorities, Secretary Clinton underperformed President Obama.
Yeah,
now I think the argument
36 of Hispanic men in Florida voted for Donald Trump. We've just heard that.
He performed better with minorities across the board than we did in 2012 with Governor Romney. And I'm sure there are a lot of theories about why. But again, I think if Vice President Biden was a nominee, he probably would have beaten Mr. Trump. I think it's a matter of not being able to turn out key constituencies, which Secretary Clinton clearly did not do.
Right.
But I want to say something about that, though. In the research that I did with minority men in this election, there is some sexism here that people aren't really talking about. And older Hispanic men and many older African-American men are pretty conservative. And I actually heard people in focus groups say, I'm not sure I want a woman president. So that has not been talked about for some reason, but we really need to talk about sexism.
Well, we do, but let's also look to the future. And I was out this morning talking to people. There is still a lot of division, a lot of incomprehension about how the country comes together, how it can be unified. What do you think, Shermichael? How can it do it?
Republicans control both houses of Congress and now the White House. It's going to be critically important that President Trump, once he steps into that White House January 20th, that he reaches across the aisle. Republicans need to reach across the aisle to listen to Americans who do not share our complete values and understand what they find critically important moving forward in some kind of way. We have to be able to compromise and say, look, we may not all get what we want, but we're going to do what's in the best interest of most of the American people. And that sounds easy, but it's not.
Not, Anna, is it?
Well, I think Donald Trump will find some way to bring us all together. I don't think that business interests want him to destroy the economy.
And you say that as a Democrat?
Absolutely. I believe that there are many things that he has said he would do on the campaign trail that a majority of Republicans oppose, certainly a majority of Republicans in Congress.
That's right.
And I think that they have a vested interest in getting reelected in 2018, and business interests have an interest in having a strong economy, and he cannot wreck the economy without objections by people in the Republican Party.
I agree.